We've reached the midway point of the 2021 NFL regular season, and the Gold Sheet would like to say thank you for another fantastic year. The Gold Sheet has been serving NFL and college football bettors for over 6 decades and continues to make enhancements and improvements into today's digital age. Whether you're a lifelong subscriber, used to buy it at the newsstand, or perhaps have never seen the Gold Sheet, we want to share this week's edition with you. To celebrate Customer Appreciation Week, all Gold Sheet football products are free. That includes the traditional Gold Sheet with write-ups on every NFL and college football game for this week. No codes, coupons, or registration required. All productions are available for download at goldsheet.com.
Welcome into College Football Daily, best damn college football show. I am Drew Martin, joined by Tony Mejia and Adam Trigger of WagerTalk.com, stepping in for Ralph Michaels and Robbie Vino. But guys, we got 4 games to break down, including tonight's action. In MACtion, we get Kent State going at it against Central Michigan. Tony, interested in your thoughts here? It's a competitively priced game. 2 of the better teams in the MAC, in my opinion. We're now seeing Central Michigan -2 in the hook. We got a total ticking up here in the mid-70s, 75.5 right now, actually, from 72.5. So what are you liking here, Tony? Kent State versus Central Michigan?
Well, I'm on a 5-0 Wednesday night run, which means MACtion has been good to me. Wasn't last night. I had that 2-point conversion that would have hit the over if it would have gone my way in the Ohio Eastern Michigan game. And look, everybody's on this over because it's Central Michigan and Kent State. Arguably the top quarterback, at least the most talented one in the entire MAC conference, taking the field for Kent State. And we saw what Central Michigan was able to do last week, against Western Michigan, a team that has one of the more talented defenses in the conference. And the fact that 3 out of the 6 teams broke 40 points last night, MACtion is wacky. And we've gotten a lot of points. We'll see special teams play a big role in this one with Khalil Pimpleton. Had two kickoff returns for touchdowns last week. A guy that you can't kick to, which means field position will favor the Chips. So, with Dustin Crum potentially leading a comeback in a game that's going to be competitive. Kent State 4-1 in the MAC, Central Michigan 3-2. They're playing for something. It's a big deal. The temperature should be cooperative. It's going to be dry weather, light winds, temperatures in the 40s. It's over or bust for me. I'll probably give it out as a client play, but it's not my key play tonight. So be sure to look out for that.
Sure. MACtion on a Wednesday, Adam. Sounds like it's right up your alley. Tony talked about good quarterback on Kent State side and Crum. I think Central Michigan, the Chippewas, got a good quarterback as well, and Daniel Richardson, the South Florida native up there, throwing it around. 2 good offenses, 2 good teams overall in this conference. What are you looking tonight, Wednesday night MACtion?
Well, Drew, I had a nice winner in the MAC last night. I was on Miami of Ohio, and they took Buffalo out in a body bag, basically. Just a complete blowout right there. A nice, easy winner. I couldn't get to the window with this one for a rated play, but I do have an opinion. I like Kent State plus the points here. I can't disagree with the over because the way this shapes up, there should be 1 million points in this game. But the line is 75.5, I think, is what it is now, which is insane. There's no way I could take it over at that number, but the way these MAC games play out, I mean, they could easily shatter that. You're going to see a lot of offense. You should see a lot of offense. Both these teams have been playing well. Kent State 4-1 in their last 5. Central Michigan 3-1 in their last 4. But Kent State, there's a couple things that Kent State does that makes me favor them here. One, they don't turn it over. And when you're in a shootout where it's maybe who has the ball last wins, or you're trying to match a team score for score, that's a big deal. Kent State, 5 turnovers this year, tied with Coastal Carolina for the fewest turnovers in the country. That offense, Tony mentioned Dustin Crum. He's been excellent. That offense was rocking last week. 682 yards of total offense against Northern Illinois. And, Kent State is not good defensively, but they force turnovers, and that's huge in a game like this where it really should shape up to be a shootout. I think we're getting points here with Kent State. I think you're going to see a key turnover by Central Michigan at some point. And if Kent State can take care of the football, I like them to have the upper hand in what should be a shootout. Give me Kent State plus the points.
Yeah, good one there, guys. Also, check out WagerTalk.com. 5% max limit play. I got up on this game, so it's a good one. Wednesday night MACtion. Kent State, Central Michigan with your leading edge there at WagerTalk.com. We got next game up. Adam, coming back to you in the Big 12. We get TCU at Oklahoma State. We're seeing the Cowboys near -2 touchdowns, -13 and a hook is what we're seeing mostly at WagerTalk odds screen. We get 54.5 being the total. TCU, of course, off of that big surprising win. Was it a look ahead spot and they're putting you know more into this, or did they just catch kind of Baylor off guard, or is this the changing of the guards and the new coach here for TCU might actually be a bet on? What are you thinking here, TCU and Oklahoma State?
Couple things here. Yeah, I do think Baylor was looking ahead to Oklahoma a little bit. We'll talk about that more because we're going to cover that game as well. I think I've just underestimated Oklahoma State all year. I didn't make a play on it, but West Virginia last week was on my short list. And I'm obviously thrilled that I stayed away because they got completely pounded by Oklahoma State on their home field. A couple weeks ago, I talked about liking Iowa State -7. That's Oklahoma State's only loss right now, but they still covered the number, and they covered it pretty easily. So I think I've just had Oklahoma State rated a little lower than I should all season. And TCU here, yeah, they have the big win against Baylor, but that was at home. This is on the road, and this is just a much tougher spot for TCU. TCU fired Gary Patterson. So last week, I think they really got up to play for interim coach Jerry Kill. And they had, Max Duggan didn't play. So Chandler Morris made the start at quarterback for TCU. And I just think, Baylor maybe didn't know much about him. There wasn't much in the way of film on him. And TCU, it kind of had the perfect mix happen for them to sort of step up and win a game. This is a much different scenario for them on the road. I think Oklahoma State will be ready for Morris at quarterback, which is obviously a downgrade from Duggan, in my opinion. So, and Oklahoma State, in my opinion, right now is a better team than Baylor. This number actually, I don't think it could be high enough, to be honest. I see 13. I think it's moving. I think it was 12 up to 13. I'm not a big fan of laying big numbers, but if I had to play this one, I would lay it with Oklahoma State. I think this could be a blowout.
Yeah, I'm with you, Adam. And Tony, coming to you next, Oklahoma State, really good defense under Mike Gundy this year. It's kind of surprising. Usually we're used to that good offense, but this defense, one of the best in the country. TCU, I kind of go back to, and I know we'll talk about the Baylor game later, but I think they just kind of caught them off guard there. I think we're getting a little bit of a buy low, even though we're having to lay near 2 touchdowns here. I think Oklahoma State's the side. What do you feel, Tony?
I feel the line is a little inflated, but maybe it's just to scare people off of it. Certainly TCU is coming into this one banged up. Adam mentioned Max Duggan and his replacement Chandler Morris. Neither is at 100%. Morris is going to be the starter going forward. I think it's a youth movement thing. But the quotes out of Fort Worth are that Jerry Kill expects Duggan to be ready if Morris can't go because he got banged up, and nobody really knows on that beat exactly where he got banged up. And Chandler Morris had a coming out party, Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year, threw for 461 yards and 2 scores, ran for 70 and another touchdown. And, it wasn't something that anybody saw coming. In fact, I saw that it was going to be Morris and Zach Evans was taking another game off, and I was all over Baylor laying 7. I was in there beforehand and obviously got a rude awakening there because TCU played a really good game on both sides of the ball. We'll talk more about Baylor in this next segment, but the fact is that TCU's defense showed up as well as that offense. So now we're going into a fast forward situation to next week. Jerry Kill actually was Mike Gundy's coach and biology teacher. So it's a small world. It's probably the last time we'll see Jerry Kill be a head coach at this level in the over the next few weeks. as he takes over on an interim basis for good friend Gary Patterson. And again, he'll push the buttons that are there for him to push, because really he's kind of hamstrung in terms of Kendry Miller being questionable after leaving the Baylor game in the first half. Evans dealing with a turf toe, so he's unlikely to go, which leaves Amari DeMercado as their only scholarship running back. And if you're going to try to move the football against an Oklahoma State defense that has been so stout, and you've got an inexperienced quarterback likely at the controls on the road against an elite defense, then you've got challenges ahead of you. I like the under a little more than I like laying the points, but certainly what Oklahoma State has done has been no fluke. Even going into the season, Malcolm Rodriguez was expected to be one of the Big 12's top linebackers. Colby Harvell-Peel was a first-team all-safety pick, and they've stepped up, gotten help around them. They held West Virginia team that lit up Iowa State, which also has a really good defense, held them to 133 yards, fewest since 1999 by an Oklahoma State defense, and had 8 sacks. So again, held Kansas to 3 points, then came back, held West Virginia to 3 points, have really been doing this all season, and they're not going to be caught looking ahead to Bedlam. That's a couple of weeks away. Got to win at Lubbock next, take care of TCU here, and then we'll get Oklahoma State in a really fun one just after Thanksgiving. Again, the under is my play here, but I expect Oklahoma State to avoid the upset.
Tony, I got one follow-up for you. Jerry Kill was that in high school, the coach and the teacher for Mike Gundy? Wow, what a small world.
Right, and he said Gundy looked like a head coach even back then. So that'll be fun for those two to have one matchup. I think it's the only one. I don't think they faced each other when Kill was the head coach at Northern Illinois and Minnesota.
Interesting, good stuff, Tony. Doing the research there, going back to high school teachers and students with Mike Gundy and Jerry Kill. Guys, shout out to the chat box right now. Jessica joining us live. She's saying Oklahoma State for her. We get King D in the house. He's like in Northern Illinois tonight. So welcome in to everybody out there. Medina in the house too, like in Syracuse +3. So feel free to chime in what you agree with us on, what you disagree with us on, what you're looking to bet tonight. It's all welcome, guys. Please smash that like button if you're liking the content. And if you're watching on replay, feel free to comment below. And let's get into the next game, guys. We got ACC action. Tony, coming back to you. We get NC State and Wake Forest. 66.5 being the total. Wake -1, -2, depending where we're shopping right now. Wake Forest, the always interesting situation, Tony, where they're running the table. They get that first loss, next game out. A lot of people looking to fade them. Are you looking to do that here with the Demon Deacons taking on the Wolfpack?
I mean, I've been on NC State all season. They were my surprise team in the conference, so I think I'm a little biased here in saying that I really do like taking the 2 points. But it's not a great situation. Wake Forest is no fluke. They're a team that just got beat by an NFL quarterback and blew a 17-point lead. Obviously, that's not good. But they moved the ball on North Carolina. Both of those teams are offense heavy, and really it was always going to be a situation where whoever had the ball last was going to win. Sam Hartman is the real deal at quarterback for Wake, and they run multiple sets. Dave Clawson's always been an offensive coach. So I think the ingredients are there for them to bounce back. But certainly NC State is no slouch, no pushover. I mean, they've been able to prove time after time that they're one of the better teams in the ACC this year. They had the letdown at Mississippi State, but recovered from that to beat Clemson, obviously. Lost by a point at Miami in a game that they could have won. So they've been in most of these games. The issue with backing NC State is you're going against historical trends. They've been terrible in Winston-Salem, 1-8 straight up since 2001, 1-11 against the spread since 97. Devin Leary, the Wolfpack quarterback, his first career start came in Winston-Salem, and he was terrible in that one. They lost 44-10. He had a sub 40% completion percentage through 2 picks. So it'll be interesting to see how he approaches this one. Kind of a let's show everybody how much I've grown up situation. And NC State does get 2 of their better defenders back in the mix. The defensive end, Savion Jackson, is back. They've got Tyler Baker-Williams, their nickel back, starting again. So they're going to need all hands on deck against that Wake Forest offense. So it's a good sign that everybody is healthy. And again, I think this is a situation where the last team that has the ball wins. I think Wake has enough offensively with Emeka Emezi in the passing game with Leary to hang if this turns into a shootout. But they're also one of the better defensive teams that Wake Forest has run into of late. Wake has played Army and Duke and UNC over the past 3 weeks. So this will be a slap in the face if NC State is able to bring their defensive A game to the table. Again, total could go either way. It just depends on how the game unfolds. But I'm on the NC State +2 bandwagon.
Like in the Wolfpack here. Shout out to you with their sleeper team for pretty much sounds like the whole season, Tony. Adam, coming to you next. I know you saw Wake live in person against Army. Wake, like Tony kind of touched on, the offense isn't the issue. That's not why they lost against UNC. The issue being on the defensive side of things. They get their first loss. A lot of people think that this is kind of fade spot for Wake Forest. A good one in the ACC, though. Wake being back at home, -1, -2, total of 66.5. What are your thoughts here, Adam?
Drew, I have 2 words for you, and that is dream crusher. Wake Forest had to think if they got through that game against North Carolina, a 4-4 team, a disappointing team, that they'd be at home against NC State as a favorite, with a legitimate chance at making the college football playoff. They had to at least think that going into last week. And then you go to last week, I cashed a best bet on North Carolina. I have no idea how, because it looked like they were going to be dead to rights about halfway through the third quarter of that game. Wake Forest, 18-point lead, scoring for fun. And North Carolina figured out how to get a couple stops, and the offense went nuts, and the rest is history. They get the win. I don't know how Wake Forest comes out here and gets up for this game the way they need to beat NC State. Tony made a great point. Big step up defensively for what Wake Forest is going to see from what they've seen the last couple of weeks. And NC State is getting healthier on defense. Drew, you mentioned I was at that Army Wake Forest game. I don't know if it's because I was there, but Wake Forest cannot stop anything. I mean, Army practically could have told them that they were going to run just about every play. And Wake Forest still had absolutely no answer. Teams have been running on them all year for huge, huge numbers. With Army, I think, putting up over 400 rushing yards, 56 points. And then last week, North Carolina, once they got cooking offensively, they pretty much did whatever they wanted. NC State 7-2. Like Tony said, 2 tough losses. Mississippi State's not a bad team at all. And then the Miami loss, a tough spot, and really a game I felt like NC State should have won. So, and one other thing I really like about this NC State team, they just don't turn it over. They've only had 7 turnovers all year. Wake Forest, one thing they sort of rely on defensively is forcing turnovers. And if they're not going to get turnovers here, they're not going to stop NC State. Whereas I think NC State might have a few stops in them. This is going to be a best bet for me. I haven't added it yet. I was kind of seeing if the line was coming back. It will be on my card in some fashion. But I love NC State in this spot. I think they're going to win, and I just think Wake Forest should have a little bit of a hangover from last week. It was a game they had in their grasp and let it slip away. And the saying, I know they love to use it on Bet On It. I think they might lose the North Carolina game twice. So give me NC State here.
Yeah, letting 1 loss become 2. The Dream Crusher, Adam Trigger. Check him out at WagerTalk.com. Adam, I got to kind of, it's similar to this, but talking about that Wake UNC game and that total of 76, they ended up scoring 100 points. Do you know any sports books out there? I know you're into this with alternative lines, meaning like if the total's 76, you could bet it at like 81 to go over at a plus price. Do you know any sports books dealing that?
Oh, absolutely. I think almost all of the legal entities are, meaning your FanDuel's, DraftKings. I have a Bet Rivers down the street from where I live. I know that they offer alternate totals. I would say if you live in a state that has sports betting, I'm certain that you could find it. I'd have to look at the global options. It sounds like something that like a Bet Online, I won't say like providers, I know it's not supposed to, but it sounds like something that the global options would offer. But just look around, it's out there. Alternate NCAA football lines should be up at almost every book. And you could take advantage. Like last week, I mean, that would have been a great spot to take advantage of an alternate over, because even going into that game, it was like pretty much consensus, like who's getting a stop here. It looked like it was going to be 100-point game, and that's what it ended up being. So yeah, it's out there. You just got to look for it. But most books should have it.
Okay.
Action points.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tony.
No, I just said action points.
And the reason I asked you the question, Adam, is because I was actually having trouble trying to find that, because I was looking for the alternative line to the over, and a lot of the sports books didn't have it. But yeah, got to dig a little deeper, guys. But we got 2 games left, or actually 1 game left, and then best bets. We got Oklahoma and Baylor. We touched on it a little bit, speaking about the TCU game. But Adam, coming back to you, Big 12 action here. We get Boomer Sooner laying 5.5 on the highway. Of course, they got their eyes on a playoff entry here. We get 62.5. Baylor off of that loss, maybe a look-ahead loss, or maybe, hey, they're trending down. I don't know what the thought process is for you. Let's hear it, though. Boomer Sooner versus the Baylor Bears. What are you liking in Waco on Saturday?
Yeah, we talked extremely disappointing loss last week for Baylor. Drew, you and I have been on Baylor, a season win total, which we cashed weeks ago. It was over 5.5. Shout out to Chris Thurston, our Hustle co-host, who will be on in a little bit. He had us on Baylor, and I've actually done extremely well on this team this year. They've been outstanding against the number. And yeah, I really do think that they were looking ahead to the Oklahoma game last week. And unfortunately, they took a loss because of it. I have been anti-Oklahoma almost all season, with the exception of when they played Texas. Oklahoma is a fade to me, and they are, they're going to have to go on the road here with either a guy that I just haven't liked his entire career in Spencer Rattler at quarterback, or a freshman, Caleb Williams. Baylor is awesome defensively. They're going to stop the run, which means they're going to make one of these Oklahoma quarterbacks beat them. And I don't know if Oklahoma is going to do that. So, Baylor can score. Oklahoma is really not great defensively. They can definitely give up points. I like Baylor in a bounce back spot. I'll go back to it. I think they overlooked TCU. They were looking at this game. Now we're getting a good number. I definitely think Baylor with the points is the way to go here.
Sure. And Mejia, coming to you next. I agree with Trigger. I think that Baylor's the side here, coming back home, bouncing back off that look-ahead loss. What are you feeling?
Well, I was screaming action points at you earlier, because that's that was an option that I think is probably still out there at some books, but you can basically bet an amount on a point. So if a total is eclipsed by, say, 15 points, you have whatever you bet. Every point is worth that. And this was something that was around at least 5 years ago. I played on totals that I really liked. Imagine having action points on Virginia BYU earlier this season. But in this particular game, I'm on the total as well, and I really like the under. I think it will be Caleb Williams who takes the field in Waco. I think he's clearly outplayed Spencer Rattler in terms of performance over the past month with what he's been able to do, whereas Rattler really held the Sooners back in that first month. And since taking over in Red River and leading a 55-48 comeback, Oklahoma has eclipsed 50 points 2 out of 3 games. They had a letdown spot against Kansas that I think everybody really took a step back in. But for the most part, they blew out Texas Tech 52-21, hung 52 on TCU that responded with 31. And now we'll face a Baylor defense that got softened up last week. I mean, whether they were ready to play or not, I think that Baylor has some concerns. So the fact that Oklahoma comes in, I think they'll get Baylor's best punch. And that kind of leads me to this under, because the other factor in the Bears' loss last week was Jerry Bohannon playing his worst game of the season. His QBR was sub 70. Really made some mistakes, including the game clincher there with the pick at the end. And Oklahoma, I think they come in on upset alert. They need a decent defensive performance. And the fact that Baylor's defense is going to give Williams different looks than he's seen to date will, I think, create a situation where we don't quite get the 63, 64, 65 points needed to get to this over. So I'm on the under here.
Okay, like in the under Oklahoma and Baylor. Guys, that does it for the 4 games. We got best bets coming up now. Baylor Bears will be mine, plus 5.5, coming off of that loss against TCU. I think it was a look-ahead spot. Coming back home to Waco, look for a wild atmosphere as they welcome in the Oklahoma Sooners here. And I think Oklahoma, that defense, I don't know. I think it's a little leaky here, and I'm not sure the offense has enough to outscore Baylor. So I'll take Baylor. The home dog is barking. Plus 180 on the money line, but for record-keeping purposes, I will take the points. My best bet, Baylor Bears, plus the 5.5. Coming to Adam Trigger up next. Give him a follow at Top Flight SI. Check him out at the Hustle Show podcast. It's coming up at 6 o'clock Eastern time right here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. Come check us out. Adam, where are you heading for best bets, and any final thoughts?
Well, final thoughts. I agree with Baylor, so I definitely like your best bet. But I'm going to go right back to that NC State-Wake Forest game. I really like NC State in this spot. As I said, I think Wake Forest could potentially lose the UNC game twice. They had to be looking at that game like a very winnable game to get to this game at home where they'd be favored and, be knocking on the door of the college football playoff. That dream is over. And now this is just another home game for Wake Forest. And, NC State's a really good team. It's going to be the best defense they've seen in weeks. And, Wake Forest, they're the real deal offensively, but that defense is atrocious. NC State doesn't turn the ball over, and the way Wake Forest can kind of survive defensively is forcing turnovers. So NC State, I think the wrong team's favored here, actually. I think NC State's the better football team. Couple slip-ups, have them at 7-2. They easily could be 8-1, and even they could have been the undefeated team. So NC State getting a couple points, best bet. I think they get it done.
The Wolf Pack for Adam Trigger. Check him out at WagerTalk.com. We got Tony Mejia, last certainly not least here. Tony, final thoughts for the show and a best bet for you.
Yeah, my best bet is that Oklahoma Baylor under. I'm going to trust Dave Aranda to give Caleb Williams some looks he hasn't seen before, try to confuse the freshman. Before this bye week, did something that only Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray had done at OU, throw 6 touchdown passes. I don't buy the Heisman hype just because he was on the sidelines for the first month plus, but certainly Caleb Williams has been a game changer on the college landscape, and it'll be interesting to see how he fares against truly one of the elite defensive coaches in all of college football. But again, I think while the Sooners defense has some issues, they've struggled to get pressure on the quarterback. They've given up big plays. I just don't think Jerry Bohannon is good enough to take advantage of that. I think we do get a competitive game. Certainly Baylor, comes off a very disappointing loss to TCU, but they can still backdoor their way into the Big 12 title game by winning this game and then getting some help from Oklahoma State in Bedlam that would knock Oklahoma out of there. So they'll lay everything out on the line, but it's a defensive team. I think they'll play things close to the vest with Bohannon in that offense, and Aranda will do just enough to limit Williams and the Sooners' offense, which again has scored over 50 points in 3 or 4 games. Not a lot of leeway, which I think is a good thing because it's the lowest Oklahoma total that we've seen since Williams took over, since Red River at 63, and we'll get under it, do a little limbo, and back the low side in Oklahoma and Baylor.
He's Tony Mejia. Check him out, WagerTalk.com. 24-10 all-time 5% totals. We got Adam Trigger as well, 6-1-1 his last 7. So 2 guys seeing it well here. We got a 5% max limit play up on tonight's MACtion for me. So check us all out, WagerTalk.com. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Huge shout out to the chat box. Please smash that like button on your way out. For Tony Mejia, Adam Trigger, I am Drew Martin. Best of luck with your bets. We'll talk next week.
We've reached the midway point of the 2021 NFL regular season, and the Gold Sheet would like to say thank you for another fantastic year. The Gold Sheet has been serving NFL and college football bettors for over 6 decades and continues to make enhancements and improvements into today's digital age. Whether you're a lifelong subscriber, used to buy it at the newsstand, or perhaps have never seen the Gold Sheet, we want to share this week's edition with you. To celebrate Customer Appreciation Week, all Gold Sheet football products are free. That includes the traditional gold sheet with write-ups on every NFL and college football game for this week. No codes, coupons, or registration required. All productions are available for download at goldsheet.com.